So how was it coming back to finally drawing in that universe again and all that?
Do you want me to wait to answer that until you're filming?
I am filming.
Oh, you're filming now. We're filming now. Crazy. It was great. I mean, you know, Greg and I would love to do more. We'd love to have a full revival.
Yeah.
You know, they kept saying, oh, it's 2 issues. And I think the fact that it was in 2 pieces, which meant it got referred to in the plural.
Right.
Confused a lot of fans initially that like this was some sort of an ongoing revival, billed as a prequel to season 3. I'm like, well, no, what we wanted to do was a prequel to season 3. Comics coming out for the whole year leading up to the new season coming out. 20 pages. Well, that allows you to tell one simple story that takes place sometime before season 3 starts. Right. You know, I was delighted to get to draw those characters again. I mean, I do prints and I do sketches for people, but that's not the same thing as telling stories with them.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we would love to do more, but as Greg always says, it's not up to us.
Is the Young Justice universe like your favorite to play around in?
There's ups and downs to the fact that so much of the stuff I have done for DC has been animation tie-ins. It is simplifying to not have to deal with whatever the convoluted things happening in continuity are at the moment. It's like, oh, we're just doing this version over here. One of the reasons I enjoy working with Greg is not only do I think everything that everyone does on the creative team of the show I think is of such excellent quality. Their take on the characters melds with how I like to see them done really well. It has been very in vogue in the last couple of decades to have Batman be very kind of an a-hole and kind of crazy and very, very rage-driven. And I'm like, I never saw the character that way. I always saw the character as somebody like wounded and driven and all that stuff, but very much motivated more by wanting to protect people from ever having to experience what happened to him. Reluctant to let people in because once they get in, then he will do anything to protect them, and that he just, you know, scarred and dark but very still caring character, which is very different than what you get from a lot of versions. And like, well, that's what's in Young Justice. He not only relates to Dick Grayson, but like how he functions as a mentor to the team and how supportive and trusting he was of them. It's like, well, that's my Batman.
I assume, of course, you've been watching and following the new season.
Oh goodness, yes.
Batman's been a little bit more of an a-hole than normal.
Well, I mean, Batman has always been one to go his own way on things, and you know, I don't think it's out of character even for that version of the character I was describing to look at a problem and be like, all right, well, I'm going to do this crazy tactical thing of let's blow up the Justice League so I can go outside of that system and actually solve the problem. Like, yeah, that's a Batman move.
But all that matters is the mission. And if the UN's a roadblock to that mission, then we remove it by removing the League.
Bruce, please.
You are a founding member. I'm sorry, but I hereby tender my resignation to the Justice League. So do I.
Ollie.
I know that the creators of the show themselves are very protective, I guess, of like where their characters are going and where they've been and all this stuff. So when you guys are collaborating on creating essentially new stories in the same universe, are they constantly like, oh no, don't do that?
The first 2 stories I drew were when Art and Franco were still scripting. But even their stories were very much based on notes and outlines that were coming from Greg and the production people of the show. And then obviously once Greg was writing it himself, the guy writing the book is the guy signing off on the book on behalf of the Warner Brothers Animation. So there was no conflicts to be had. Because comics require so much less lead time than animation, they knew what was coming way in advance on the show. You could put something in the comic that was going to pay off in episodes down the road. I was in this sort of weird position where I would find things out about what was coming. Stuff was being given to me because it was relevant to a comic story we were doing. But outside of that, Greg wasn't voluntarily sharing everything. He likes to play everything very close to the vest. And, you know, he's supposed to. There's like NDAs and stuff. But so I would get like, you know, a packet of reference material for models for characters. It was a reference packet from a season 2 episode, and I'm like, Nightwing? Oh, this is going to be interesting. You know, so like, I kind of knew that time jump was coming before the episodes aired.
That's cool to hear that there's that much cohesion, even though, because like our channel's mostly about the animated, the Bruce Timm universe. And so when we talk to people from that, a lot of the tie-in comic artists and writers have no idea. They have no connection whatsoever.
Well, both when I was drawing Justice League Adventures and the Batman Strikes based on the Batman, you'd think that on some level it'd be like, hey, we're all on the same team here, right? Let's just share materials. I was having to do Google image searches to find reference for what the character's supposed to look like. With Young Justice, Greg Nelly organized his scripts very helpfully, where like, here's the list of all the characters that appear in this that are characters or locations or props from the existing canon. He would just email the person in the production office to like, can you send Chris all the model sheets for this? And I just get like, this is what the animation people would get as reference.
Awesome.
So yeah, like, perfect, the best you could hope for.
So if you could forward all of those emails to me, that would be awesome. No,
sure, absolutely. I was talking to Phil Barassa and I joked like, you know, my biggest complaint that we don't have the comic as an ongoing thing is it means I don't have any, there's no reason for me to get my hands on season 3 models, which I want so badly because they're gorgeous and I'm a big fan of being able to study the design work.
Was there any Young Justice character that has appeared in these that didn't get onto the show that you got to actually design yourself?
Quite a few. Grodd, Deadshot, our version of Brainiac, who Greg insists on calling the Collector of Worlds, but he's Brainiac.
Was that scary at all, or like, oh no?
Oh no, it was a ton of fun. It was my favorite thing. I've studied Phil's designs enough that I'm not saying that I can like flawlessly imitate Phil, but I have a fairly good understanding of the basic design philosophies of the show. Everything has a lot of functionality built into the design and visibly evident. You kind of design with that in mind, and then Phil would sign off on stuff. Down the road, that character might show up in the show. Yeah, they would do another pass on the design for tweaking it for animation, but they wanted to be able to have it be reasonably consistent with whatever I had done in the comic, you know, because it's supposed to all be canon. The only character during our original run that made it onto the show was in one of the very last episodes from season 2, because it hadn't been designed yet when we did the comic story. As a minor background character, you get Ra's al Ghul's henchman, Ubu. And like, he showed up in the comic first. Ooh, big tough bald guy. Yeah, that's wow, really out there on the design. The design did not originate with me, but in the Young Justice continuity, when they go to Infinity Island in episode 6, the sword that Sensei has appeared in the comic. It's a sword that has a blade that was designed to be able to cut open Captain Atom's skin, and it can cut Superboy. So it's interesting watching that fight, realizing that Sensei is wielding a weapon that if he makes contact with Superboy, it's going to cut him in two.
Your trespass must be punished.
Wrong answer.
When we did our 20-page prequel comic, you know, I get the script from Greg, and I get the model sheets coming with it, just like old times. And hello!
Hey.
Special guest appearance. It had the studio logo, which I did not know the significance of when I drew that story. And then watching season 3, I'm like, oh, that's why that was in there. One of the many, many, many reasons I would love for them to let us do more. If there were more material, it would make more sense to have a collected edition.
Right.
And, you know, we're always telling people, like, you can go to Comixology, or now all the comics are available on the DC Universe app, and that's all great, but I can't have them on my table at a convention. Can't sign them for fans.
Right.
And some people just like the physical comics.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I have my history with it, Greg has obviously a lot more history with it. None of this is up to us. It's you know, the powers that be, and you know, all we can do is let them know that we are eager and willing, and fans can not only let them know that they want to see it, but demonstrate that with supporting the stuff that's out there. But that's really all that there is that you can do.
Great. Thank you so much for talking with
us. Absolutely.